Hello, welcome to the Knit Girls. This is episode 264. I'm Laura, also known as Lala.
And I'm Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les. I hear my cat destroying something over there.
It's awesome.
Yes. Um, it is Sunday, August 23rd, 2015. Um,
You got anything else to add?
that's all I got. Nope, I've had company the past few days, so I'm a little brain dead at the moment.
That's fine.
But you have stuff, right?
I do have stuff. I have knitting to show.
Sweet.
And then stuff to talk about. So my knitting to show. Yes, I have line break. That's it. No, I've got a sock too. So this is line break. It is a Vera
Falamaki.
pattern. It is out of Volmaiza DK in the Elsa colorway. Let's see, I'm keeping it in a Joanna Springs bag. Have you seen this bag before? Let me show you the awesome feature. There are skulls and goats.
That is pretty great.
I don't know what else you need in a knitting bag besides skulls and goats. But she is Knit Spin Farm, and you can find her bags and her awesome podcast there. So I have this much left of my first skein. It is 45 grams. I want this to be down to 25 grams by the end of the night. We'll see. So it's getting there. I have ripped out twice because, and see, I watched Laura Nelkin's Craftsy class, and I should have done it earlier. I'm fixing lace mistakes, but what's happening is, which side is it? Okay, so I have this little doohickey that tells me that this is the right side because it's garter stitch, so you can't really tell the right from the wrong. And then I have this marker, and see how all those stitches are in an awesome line.
Mm-hmm.
And then on this side, the stupid stitches keep trying to jump this marker. So one of the hints that Laura Nelkin gives in her class is to use triangle markers, which I don't have any of, but I'm going to buy some because it won't jump them as easily for some reason. The little triangles.
Because they won't, it's not as smooth as the surface,
Yeah.
I guess.
So it's jumped it like 3 times, and then I catch it like 20 rows later. But it's not like, so it's 20 rows later on this side. But on this side, it's like 75 rows later. So, and it's short roads. So I'll review Laura Nelkin's Craftsy class a little bit later, but if you follow me on Instagram, the first time it was like way down here. And I just ripped it all the way back because I didn't feel like dealing with it. But then I was up here, and I actually was at this point, and it was jacked up. It's a technical term. Down here, and it was really driving me crazy. So I tried dropping 10 stitches all the way down to there. And it, like, the way she does it works really well, but because I have short rows also, like, turned in here,
it makes it near impossible.
It didn't come out. It probably would have worked, and Lynn and Jessica are my people, along with Leslie, that I text. I'm like, you got to be honest. Tell me how terrible this looks. And it was pretty terrible. And they were trying to be nice. Leslie didn't respond.
I had company, so I ignored
But they
my
were
phone.
like, it'll block out. And I'm like, I really don't think it's going to block out. Like, that's not really working for me. So I ripped back. It was sad. I went from having 40-some grams back up to 120 grams to knit. So it was like 80 grams worth of knitting that I ended up putting back. But it was easy to pick back up the stitches, and I should have probably put in lifelines. Still not putting in lifelines. So that's fun. But I am looking at it more often. So that's good. Instead of just... Well, one of the things I'm also doing, so this shawl, like we said, is short rowed. And so every certain number of stitches, you do a wrap and turn. Let me see if I can find one. So like down here, you can see it's wrapped and turned. And then you move this far over, and then you do another wrap and turn. And so what I'm doing now is eating my hair. But also, I have a little Jenny the Potter stitch marker. So when I'm not short rowing right now, but when I get back to short rowing, I put it immediately after the stitch that I wrap and turn. So that's kind of like a little speed bump that's like, whoa, lady, slow down. We're wrapping and turning.
Yeah.
Another couple stitches. So that's good. I might have to pull my hair up. Um, so it's going. I have to have it done by next Sunday. I should not put things in front of my mouth. That's annoying. I have to have it done by next Sunday so I can block it Monday and turn it into Camp Loopy, or Sunday night. So
Hopefully by the next time we record, you'll be able to show it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Otherwise, it's going to be a really long week of knitting. It's going to be a long week of knitting anyways. I have to do around 20. So I'm down to like, what did I say, 40 some?
45 grams.
45 grams. I have to get all through those 45 grams. That'll put me at around 500 yards. Then I have to do another 300 yards. So that's like another 100 grams. So yeah, like 20 grams a night. 25 grams a night, like in between those two numbers. The math people are freaking out on me right now. More than 20, less than 25 a night. So we'll see. I have faith that it'll get done. It's just volleyball season starts this week. So, but the good news is they're playing away Monday, so I don't technically have to go to the game, but it's at South Haven, which is like 10 minutes away from my house. So I probably will go to the game just to cheer them on, but I can knit on it during that point. The other thing I have on my needles, which I forgot to show y'all last week, are the purple rain socks. So these are the purple rain socks. The yarn is White Birch Fiber Arts, and it's being knit on size 0 needles. The shawl's being knit on size 6. There's my waist yarn. That yellow is waist yarn. So it's a pre-thought, afterthought heel. And now y'all know why I pull up my hair all the time.
Just put it under your earbud, your ear thing.
I will once it's your turn. So I just started the ribbing. I'm like 1 row into the ribbing. And I haven't worked on it actually at all this week. Because I've been working on this.
And then reworking and then reworking.
Any spare moment I have. Like I had a meeting Friday and that's why I was able to get so much done on it. That I had to rip all out. So the purple rain socks, I'm looking, I think they'll get some more work on them this week. That's the plan. We'll see. I'd like to get them done and off to their intended recipient. So, plus I want to clear my needles for our Halloween craft all the things, because September 1st will be here before we know it. So I need to add that to the show notes too. Things. All the things, not just some of the things. And that's it for me. I don't know what else to talk about. That's all I got.
So I only have a couple of works in progress to talk about as well. I have no finished objects. I did a little tiny bit of spinning on some of the fleece that I processed, but I don't even have it to show you. It's less than an ounce. It's upstairs, so I didn't.
I did some spinning on Three Waters Farm, but it's still on my wheel. Because Humberto is my spinning chair hog. He won't get off of it.
I just realized I left my Yowza shawlette upstairs. That's okay. Because it looks much the same as it did last week. I put a few rows on it, but not a ton. Neelix, I don't know what you want, babe, but I don't have it to give you. So
your Yowza shawlette is number 4?
It's number 4, and it's out of Miss Babs Yowza in the Funny Papers colorway. And it's knit on a size 9, which I think is a 4.5 millimeter, I believe.
What's the shape on that one?
It's a sort of an elongated triangle, kind of an asymmetrical elongated triangle. So aside from that, I've had company, like I mentioned before, in town. So I've been swatching because I can do that pretty mindlessly.
Oh, cool.
So I swatched out of my Leading Men Fiber Arts Soliloquy in the Copper Cloud colorway. I did that in 2 separate swatches just to get an idea of what my gauge would be. And they're pretty big swatches. They're like 6x6. And then I swatched with some Hazelnuts DK from the SSK goodie bag.
Yeah.
And this is the Alexandrite colorway. So I swatched that. It's coming out so beautifully.
It's really pretty colorway.
It's kind of hard to see, but it does have some greens and grays and purples, but it's blended really well. So I swatched that in 2 sizes as well. And the way that I mark them is just by the number of knots on the tail, which corresponds to the US needle size. And I've been trying to keep track of it in my Journal of Awesome, which a lovely viewer sent a while back.
That's cool.
So I just make a note of what the gauge was before blocking and after blocking.
So have you blocked both of those swatches?
I have, yes.
And how did you block them?
The same way I would block the sweater, which is to soak it in warm-ish, sort of on the low side of warm water with a little bit of either soak or another wool wash like Tuft Woolens or the Allure. And then I just laid it flat. I gave it a slight stretch and then I laid it flat, which is the same way that I block my garments. So I was able to use the swatches from the Copper Cloud because I have a gradient set from Leading Men Fiber Arts in the blue steel colorway, and it's the exact same base.
Okay.
They're just split into mini skeins. So I used that to measure gauge, and I was spot on for gauge for the sugar maple.
Oh, okay.
With
so you started your sugar maple.
I started my sugar maple.
Cool.
I started it maybe Friday night or Saturday. So
now you had 2 sets, and you weren't certain if you were going to do all of one color and then progress to the next color, or if you were going to circle back around.
Or if I was going to go light to dark and then back to light.
Yes.
Right. After I looked through every project on Ravelry, because I can be obsessive, and what I decided.
That's shocking to me.
What I decided was for my size, it tended to look better if you went from light to dark and just kept it all in one progression, and you didn't
so
go back. So
it's going to draw attention up here,
right,
versus down here.
Right, and it'll
I agree.
minimize my big old bottom and big old everything else. So this is where
I was just saying something, and I decided not to.
Thank you. I don't even know what it was, but thank you.
Oh, I bet you could guess.
So I'm using a Chalgu red lace needle, and the cables are very firm, so I can't really stretch it out. But this is what it looks like. I used the 2 of the lightest color, which is sort of a seafoamish.
Pretty. And you're alternating the skeins?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
I'm just like living dangerously, and so I just started the second color.
I can see.
I think it's a nice. There's a line, but it's not a like really dramatic line.
Yeah.
So.
And since you're progressing down anyways,
yeah,
through them,
and I'm getting close.
If you go from light to dark on those, it would be fine.
Yes, and I'm getting close to where I'll split the sleeves off.
Wow.
So, because that's done pretty early because of the way that the shape, it's triangular. Even now, it's like it goes down.
It's pointing to your boob?
Yes, it's pointing to this boob.
Only that one, not this one.
So it's lower in the front than it is in the back, and so I split earlier than I would if it were all even across all around. I feel like I can't speak today.
No, you're fine. So that's going to affect the armpit depth.
Yes, but she's got, okay, so this is Sugar Maple.
There you go.
It's by Karina Spencer. And she's got, and it's actually not even written for my size. It stops
what's the largest size it goes up to?
It goes up to 46, and I'm a 48, full bust. So I'm looking as I go through, and I've already made the notes on stitch counts and everything. The way that she does stitch counts is logical, like it's every 4 or every 8 or whatever. Like you can look at the numbers and it'll make sense. And she's got some nice schematics as well. So for some things I'm not going to adjust size, like the arm I'm not going to make bigger because I don't think there's a significant difference between a 46-inch and a 48-inch bust in the arm measurement.
I would do. You have your arm measurements from when we measured for.
I know. Yes.
So can you does it give an arm measurement?
Yeah, and the armhole depth is 9.5. And the upper arm, which is the measurement around, like the circumference or what?
Yeah. It's circumference.
Yeah, because diameter is across. Circumference is 14.5 inch around. So, and my armhole depth from my custom fit measurements was 9 3/4, I think. So it's a
Okay.
1/4 of an inch difference between.
And knit fabric likes to stretch.
Right.
Like, it's not.
I would rather it stretch than gape.
So, when you're doing all these measurements, are you kind of going with a percentage? Did you figure out like a percentage difference between your pre-block swatch and your post-block swatch?
Well, and they actually are pretty even. So,
Okay.
um, it's a US 5. So my pre-block count for 4 inches was 26 stitches, and that did not change post-blocking.
Okay.
The rows changed, but only one row for every inch did it change. So, and it grew. So lengthwise, I'll be able to make it. I'll have to do the math, but I'll be able to make it a
So
little
your
bit
armhole
shorter.
depth will actually be
It'll
bigger.
grow a little bit.
Yeah, it'll grow a
Yes.
little bit. So you should be fine.
Anyway, sorry about that, y'all.
So it'll actually grow by 9 rows over those 9 inches. So that's almost probably another
Almost
inch.
an inch, yeah.
So you might, yeah, you'll be fine.
So I should be fine. And as we've learned, if it doesn't fit me, I'll just give it to somebody else. So I'm happy about it. It is in fingering weight. The only garment I've knit in fingering weight for an adult was the Caulfield cardigan
Yeah.
out of Sparrow, which
Quince.
I didn't
Yeah.
even realize was fingering weight.
Yeah, it's a
Also,
linen.
it took forever.
I bet you it did because it was fingering weight linen.
Yeah.
And you had problems winding that, if I can recall.
Yes.
Like, it didn't want to wind.
And I don't think that is exclusive to Quince and Company.
No, it's any linen. It's just,
It's
linen.
super grabby. Yeah, like it really wants to hold on to itself.
See, I thought it was going to go with the
Well,
slippy.
but I mean, like the fiber lengths are longer, but as they cross each other, they don't want to let go. Like they're really like
It's like
that's
one of
my
those
buddy.
Chinese finger traps.
Yes, very much. So if you have linen in mind for a project, just take the time and hand wind it. You will it's worth it. Just do it by hand.
I love that Caulfield. That's one of my favorite sweaters that you've knit, by the way.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So I'm hoping, you know, Amy Herzog says that a fingering weight sweater is one of the finest garments you'll ever make for yourself. In fit, in feel, and in drape. So I'm really hoping that's true, and that I like this. I would like to be able to wear this to Rhinebeck. I feel like because I overheat easily, and I can't usually wear a full sweater to Rhinebeck, this would be a nice alternative because it's short sleeved. So
Yeah, and you could always add a shawl or something.
yeah, or like a plain white tee under it or something like that, you know. Anyway, so that is all that I am working on. Like I said, I spent most of my time entertaining guests, out-of-town guests who left this morning, so I haven't had a ton of time. I feel like I need to justify that, and that's silly, because...
No, I don't think you need to justify it. I haven't knit much except on this, so sometimes you go through phases where you're more monogamous.
Yeah.
You're in one of those phases right now. Like, you have your Yowza shawl and then that, and you've been swatching a ton. I actually have something I need to swatch. It's going to get crinkly up in here. I'm going to do a fingering weight sweater too, and I have this gorgeousness. I have 4 skeins of this, and it is plucky feet in the barn door colorway.
I love the barn door color.
It's so pretty. They're all unwrapped because this is the one that I won the golden ticket with.
Oh, cool.
Not this one specifically, but
From that
this.
lot.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to do Grace by Jane Richmond, which is a cardigan.
I like that one.
It's going to be my owl sweater, I think, if they approve it. I can't see them not approving it because what I'm going to do it for is Muggle Studies. And they require a wrist length sweater. And although I've knit other sweaters in shorter periods of time, they've been mainly stockinette. And this has the lace detail up here.
Which I really like.
And
it's fingering weight.
And it's fingering weight. So, and they do it like depending on time you have available. And I've got a lot going on this fall. Assistant girls basketball coach and all that jazz. So my knitting time is going to decrease. So we'll see. I'm also going to knit Alice a sweater. I actually got the yarn for that. It's not going to be a wonderful wallaby. It's going to be, let me see if I have it. I do. It's in my cart. I haven't bought it yet.
And Alice is your goddaughter and niece?
Yep, and my niece. And she's 3. So sweaters for her go really fast, theoretically. But she wants one with hoods and pockets. I have like 50 things. I have 24 different shopping baskets with 50 things in them. So freaking ridiculous. Because lately it's the Kira for kids. I'll link it in the show notes real fast. So it's by Gundren Johnson, the Shetland trader.
Right.
And he calls her worsted, and it's got a hood and pockets, which are the 2 things that Alice said she really wanted. I'm going to have to do, I think, it's sized from 3 to 6 months up to 12 years, so it's got great sizing. I'm going to do, there's a 4-year size. So it goes from 18 to 24 months to 4 years. So I'll do the 4 years because she'll be 4 on her birthday, and that's what it's going to be for. Because the next size up is 6 years. And I don't think I want it that big because I want her to be able to enjoy it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I bought, maybe not enough Cascade 220. I think I bought 4 skeins of Cascade 224. I might have just bought 3. I might have to order another. It's 850 yards. That's almost an adult sweater. That's ridiculous. That's a lot of yardage. Man, that's how much Julia's sweater called for, but it didn't have a hood or pockets. Alice might kill me. Like, man, that's a lot of knitting. Anyway, so those 2 things are next for me on the needles after this, and a secret project as well. We have a book review, and it's an interesting book review. It's not one that I was like, I was skeptical when I first got it.
See, you're a lot nicer because I got it and I was like, oh my god, I have to review this book. And then I read it and I was like, holy crap, this book is awesome.
It's an awesome book. Yeah, I know.
So it's by Karen Tiede, Tiede.
And it's knitting fabric rugs.
Yes.
And the lovely people over at Story Press sent it to us. And it's really like, she sells rugs too at a website called rugsfromrags.com. And she lives in North Carolina. But like we got it and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and then I started reading it just earlier today in preparation for the review, and I was like, oh god, that's really freaking. Oh, that's brilliant.
So all my books that we review go through my very interesting knitting group. I don't know how else to describe them. They're very opinionated, my knitting group.
Opinionated might be the best word.
And so they always tell me exactly what they think. And so Eloise got her hands on this, and she's like, you know what? That's a really cool book. And I was like, really? Which is terrible to say, but...
Oh, yeah, I was being a judgy brat. I'm not going to lie, but this book is great.
So it's definitely like a very niche thing. It's knitting rugs out of fabric, strips of fabric. So it's one thing that you're like, oh, that's really interesting. So this is obviously the best book on the market for this. It might be the only book on the market for this. I've seen knitted rugs out of fabric in like Mason-Dixon, I think.
Yeah, and I've seen some on Pinterest. And it's not necessarily a natural progression that every knitter's going to take. Like, I feel like every knitter starts with something flat, a dishcloth or a scarf, and then sort of eventually goes to socks or lace or a sweater. And I don't think everybody's going to make the transition to knitted rugs out of fabric, but I think that if you're interested in it, dude, this is your book. Because she covers everything from the design to...
studio space.
Yeah.
How to store stuff, how to get stuff.
What colors to keep in your stash, what types of fabrics are best, how to create the most yardage out of a t-shirt.
Yep. So chapter 1 is materials in studio space. And first off, she goes through like where to find fabric and what kind of fabric to get. So she goes to a lot of yard sales and thrift shops and friends and asks friends for leftovers, but she also goes through the synthetics to avoid, and she has a color wheel. It's a really pretty color wheel.
Yes, and she talks about how the general 8 color color wheel or 10 color color wheel isn't enough, and how paint color wheels are better. They have 100 colors, and she talks about, like Laura
Yes.
mentioned, what fabrics to completely avoid, that are just not worth including because they're going to either fall apart, or like glitter is just a bad idea. Um,
But she also talks about like good color blenders, like
mm-hmm.
browns and grays, and keeping those neutrals in your stash to blend with others. Um, so she talks about actually kicking navy out of her stash because she hates using jeans.
And that's one of the things I really loved about it. And it's several points in this book. She talks about, I really hated this color or that color, so I decided I was never going to use it again. And I
Yep.
never did use it again. And you know what? You have permission to hate colors and never use them. And it's very, she seems very approachable. I would love to sit down and have a meal with this lady.
Yes, it's a very approachable book. She goes into calculating how much and estimating how much fabric you need based on swatching, tools for cutting, how to consistently cut, and also safety
Yes.
considerations.
I loved her section on cutting for a consistent gauge. Because different fabrics, and you can tell this especially in t-shirts over the past 10 years, they've gotten thinner and thinner,
Uh huh.
and the fabric has leaned more towards the poly versus the all cotton. And so even if you use only t-shirts to make a rug, your gauge is going to change based on the thickness of that fabric. And so she talks about how to estimate a good gauge and keep the thicker things together with the thinner things. You can't always tell just by looking at it, but she gives you a very simple way to determine those, and sort of put a worsted weight category items together and a fingering, she gives you a way to sort it.
Yeah. She also shows you exactly how to cut
Mm-hmm.
different materials, which is really, really interesting. And then she even like sorts the fabric strips based on. I love how she's got the black and white in here. There's a picture. She
Yes.
sorts them by thickness, but also by color.
Yes.
And she shows you the same picture in color and black and white, which is really, really interesting.
So it's
So this,
color value. And you
yes.
can, and later in the book, there's one of the rugs. She has an additional sample that was knit using color value that is brilliant, and I would have never thought of it. So high marks on the how, and
Yeah.
the being able to get that across without it just becoming white noise in your head. She makes everything really easy to understand.
Yep. She also goes through how to assemble her rugs, whether or not to do borders, like
Hmm.
every single thing that you possibly could think of with these. And then there's actually patterns.
Well, she
But I
also
like,
talks, I wanted to mention,
yep,
every pattern in this book is garter stitch.
yes.
The reason that everything is garter stitch is several fold, but two of the main reasons is that it's squishy and will stretch and come back to shape.
Uh huh.
And it's easier on your hands to only knit versus purl. Purling uses other tendons in your fingers, and knitting is actually easier on your
It's
hands
interesting.
than purling is. Which isn't hugely important in normal knitting, but when you're using size 10, 11, 13 needles and big thick fabric, it can get progressively bad for your joints quicker. So,
So it's an interesting book in that the patterns aren't really patterns.
right.
There's like a paragraph introduction, and then there's a really cool schematic
It's very similar to
that
the
really
way
tells you how to do stuff.
it's
If
similar
that
to
makes
the way
sense.
that quilt blocks are set out in design. She gives you that information, and then you okay, so the first one is a bad example, but if you look on the second one, which is this Biltmore floating stripes,
Uh huh.
and this is what it
Which
looks
is
like in
gorgeous.
principle, then she gives you information about how much you're going to need of each color, and then she gives you this sort of breakdown, which if you're a quilter and you've ever assembled patterns, it's similar to that. It's all laid out in squares and rectangles for assembly. And then for each pattern, she has an artist sketchbook section, which gives you ideas on how to modify.
And she also has like design theories thrown in. So this
Hmm.
is really interesting if you're interesting book for color theory in general. So if you're interested more in color theory, it's a really interesting book that way too. And
Um,
there's a lot of different patterns in here
there
that are
are,
really, really pretty. That's the cover pattern.
and it should be noted that at no point does you ever have more than 22 stitches on the needle, ever. And in most cases, you have closer to 12. She does that intentionally because, again, the heavier items, like all this fabric, will pull on your joints and get rough on your body very quickly. So everything is made up of smaller pieces that are then joined together. So
Yep, that
there
are
is
sewed
seaming.
together.
There's a lot
Yep.
of seaming, but you also don't have to be precise. It's a rug. Who cares?
Yep. It's a really, really interesting theory book. And I like how they're shown, like the actual photographs
I
of the rugs,
love,
because they're not just on the floor.
yes.
And the ones that are on the floor all also have something. There's almost a lifestyle being sold
This is
just in the
true.
shoes
Yeah,
on the
it's all
rugs.
about them flu vogs, baby. But she does have a couple that
So,
are very specific to tessellations. The one Laura showed a second ago, as well as this one. Tessellations are interlocking. Um, Gosh, shapes. There we go. Couldn't think of the word shapes.
uh,
And again, she gives you her artist's sketchbook, so it gives you ideas on how to create your own. She has a log cabin example, which again, she breaks down into the logical squares. If you're like me and you have a really hard time sort of understanding the end goal without seeing it, having these drawn out is super helpful.
she also does some spiral pieces, which are really, really interesting.
Hmm.
But again, it's all about the lifestyle. Like, I want to go hang out in this kind of cool mod log cabin house that all these are photographed in.
I really like, and this is near the log cabin, part of the log cabin pattern, but this one is using color value. So you see how you can combine the light with the dark and make a really interesting version of a simple pattern. Um,
So anyway, this book has me rethinking knitting rugs out of
I
fabric. Like
know,
I'm like,
right?
man, we could totally do this.
I know.
Like I need to go buy some fabric because my stash room does not have enough stuff in it.
Yes.
Um, so it's a really, really overall interesting book. It's worth picking up, even if it's something that you think you'll never do, just picking up in a bookstore or getting your local library to order it in. But if it's something that you're interested in, you know who I can totally see doing this is my friend Carol
I was going
Durbin.
to say Carol Durden all the way on this.
But also like this will be a really fun guild workshop or something along those
I think it would
lines
be really
too.
fun as a group activity because
Yeah.
all of these things are knit small in pieces
Uh-huh.
and then joined together. I think this would be a great group project to do. I don't
And the
necessarily.
gauge is so like you're only doing 12 stitches, so even if your gauge on one person's is off by a little bit, you
Yeah.
can probably
And with
it's a
it being
rug.
garter, it'll stretch as well. But
Yeah,
yes,
I think you can make it work.
Karen discusses that in the beginning. She does talk about gauge, and the general idea is, who cares? It's rug. Like that's her. You know, you don't want it to be hugely out of proportion, but in general, who cares? It's a rug. So,
It's interesting, and if you like her style aesthetic, she does sell them as well. If you
hmm,
don't think that you're into the making of this,
or
I
if you
could
just can't
see,
handle one more craft in your life.
yeah, I could see Mama Linneman rocking this out
Oh
too.
yeah. So this is Knitting Fabric Rugs by Karen Teedy. It is published by Story Publishing,
They were
and
nice enough to send it to us, but it does retail for
mhm,
18.95 in the US.
yeah. So thank you, Story Publishing. This was, I will fully admit to being a snob and not being interested until I opened the book, and then I was like, I could totally do this.
You can't judge a book by its cover, I hear.
I know. I'm
That's the word on
such a
the
brat.
street. All right, we do have some. I've been getting a lot of questions about Spinzilla, so I thought we could address that in our questions. So it's not just one person, but it's a bunch of people. So first off, what Spinzilla is it's I'm reading off their website. It is a global event where teams and individuals compete in a friendly challenge to see who can spin the most yarn in a week. So basically, what it is, you go to the Spinzilla website, and it occurs from October 5th through the 11th. And they've got a countdown that says 42 days, 3 hours, 30 minutes, and 30 seconds right now till Spinzilla. There's a great like video, a YouTube video of like the best, like they did a contest last year, a photo contest of the weirdest places to spin, and like one of the people is riding in like a cab, like with a bicycle person, and she's spinning on like one of those great big Ashford wheels. But basically what it is you can compete as an individual or as part of a team. We have a team, the Woolery has a team, Shocked has a team. There's probably like 30 to 40 different teams.
There's 57, I think.
Okay. And it's a really interesting event. It just lasts a week. So time commitment wise, you are committing for that week. Like that whole week, every second of your day.
No naps this
no
year,
naps,
Leslie.
No. Any free time that you have, that's the week that you order pizza for your children every single night. Yeah, you could do those freezer meals like Karen does.
Karen does those, yeah.
Around the twist. They're very cool.
So basically the idea is just to spin like crazy, spin as much as you can. It's it's just a friendly competition where you want bragging rights essentially. And Fancy Tiger,
you win like a golden nitty notty,
a little trophy
that's been spray painted. And in the end, like it's not the
it's just for the fun of it. It's not I mean, you don't get a free trip to Hawaii or anything, but it is fun. International people can compete this year, so that's a positive.
They did last year, and you get yardage based on your singles, but if you take the time to ply, you also get more yardage, which is great.
Right. So if you have a 200-yard skein that is consisted of 3 individual plies, you actually get 800 total yards. Because each one of the plies is 200 yards, plus the total plied is 200 yards.
And Spinzilla really is, like, it allows, the money that they raise through it all the proceeds go to the Needle Arts Mentoring Foundation. So it goes back to the community. It is $10 per person to join. Like we said, you could compete as an individual or as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Signups for the team are September 1st?
And it is first come, first serve. So if you have a specific team that you want to be on, like the TheKnitGirlls, you really want to be there when it opens because it only allows for 25 people on a team. We have no control over who joins. It's just the first 25 people that request us when they join their team. That's it.
And they say, like, we can't say you have to spend this much to join our team.
We want you to be really dedicated.
But it is a commitment, and, we want you to, because we want to win, because we're winners.
I promise not to nap if you promise not to nap.
So it's fun, but it's also competitive, and we're super competitive about it. So spin time begins at 12:01, and I stayed up last year. Like, I stayed up till that midnight, Monday, October 5th, and ends that Sunday. It's regardless of your time zone, so you can start as soon as your clock starts 12:01. You submit the total yardage of singles you spun plus your applying credit. And they have like an online calculator this year, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they have links to all sorts of references. If you're only going to spin singles, they have a link to a McMorrin singles weight thing, which just is crazy to me. I'll just ply it, but
they do have a group on Ravelry, and they have all the information there. They also have an FAQs tab, so if you're more interested in that, you can check them out. It's a commitment, but it's fun.
I think it's fun.
We won't sleep that whole week. It'll be insane. And I don't have off at all this. Like, usually I have like the next Monday, Tuesday off for fall break, but we don't have fall break anymore. So, it's going to be very sleep deprived for me.
Yeah, I'll be working. So.
Yeah. We have had people take off the week before.
And if you are able to, hell yeah, we'll take you. But we don't expect that.
I will tell you, I learned something from the Rogue Spinners last year. There was a Rogue Spinner who spun a lot. Like
17,000 yards or something.
No, like 30,000 yards. And what she had done is she had ahead of time made all her roving into strips
Hmm.
and like a lot of pre-work.
Like pencil roving style.
Yes. So this year I do want to do a little bit more, like I do a lot of faux Rolags,
Mm-hmm.
spinning woolen from the folds. And I want, actually, it's not Rolex. I just spin woolen from the fold. I want to do a lot of that prep work ahead of time and make sure my bobbins are empty this year. But that's gonna be one of my main things. I have the big wheel this year, so
You
that should be
do.
interesting. Um, so it'll be fun. I need to remember to sign up so I can be on our team.
Oh, I'll remind you. Or
Well,
like last year, I'll just sign you up.
yeah, that's probably the best. My school year now, I have very little time to sit at the computer at all.
So if
So,
you have any questions that we didn't answer, which is entirely possible because we tend to ramble, just
yep,
ask it in the episode thread, and we'll do our very best to answer you as quickly as we
yep.
can.
And there is a Spinzilla website, but also,
Yeah, spinzilla.org, I think.
yep. So I'm linking it right now before I forget. But also, they have a group on Ravelry that has even more information.
Yep.
So, there you go. Okay. So, reading. What have you been reading, my dear?
I've read 2 books this week, and they're both in the Psy Changeling series
Yeah,
by Nalini Singh. It's the third and the fourth ones in the series. So far, there's like 13 in the series.
there are, and I've read every single one.
They're good. I mean, they're not gonna change your life or anything, but they're
Yeah, they're good fluff.
yeah,
She's
they're good
got
fluff.
another series that's really
The
good.
Archangel series. Yeah,
The new
it's
one
on my
comes
list.
out September 17th or something. Soon.
Yeah, so I've been reading those on the Kindle, and then I started reading a book by Mercedes Clark. No, Mercedes something else.
Lackey?
Lackey. Yes. And it's the first one in the book with companions that are horses.
Yeah, I read that
Fire
a
something.
long time ago,
Yeah.
like
There's a
maybe
guy
when
at
I
work
was 12 or
who
13.
reads fantasy a lot, and so he
That's so
recommended this
funny.
book to me, and he gave me the paperback to read.
Talking horses in it. That's
Yes.
funny.
Um,
Man, I need to go reread those. I might need to get those for my library because that might be something that some of my kids would be into.
yeah, I mean, it's
I haven't
interesting.
thought about those in years. Man.
You're welcome.
I probably have them all in the garage because, like, I was unboxing books from when I was in, like, all the Anne McCaffreys are
Hmm.
there. And I haven't read those since I was like 13 or 14. But I bought them all when I was, like, I'd saved my pennies. And then we go to Borders. And
Yeah. So what have you been reading then?
total absolute junk. And I haven't been reading it. I've been listening to it. So my library has this very cool thing called the Overdrive, where you can download books and audiobooks
Yeah.
to your iPad, which I've been using the heck out of for the past year. But I've been saying a lot tonight. I'm sorry. They have the Wicked series by Jenna Ivanovich, and I love the narrator of those. The Lorelei King does all the narration of those, but she also does the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. She does both those series on Audible, and they had the first two. And I was like, oh, I'll download these. And so I had an Audible credit, so I just got the third because they didn't have that one for my library. So I'm still listening to the second. My library gives you a week to listen to anything.
Oh,
So on that one, it's not too bad. But, like, I've downloaded, like, 40-hour, like, books, and trying to get through that in a week's, like, a full-time job. But those are the days that I'm trying to get books out in the library. I listen to those, like, when I'm processing stuff.
my library has that Overdrive thing too,
Yeah, I love it.
but you have to actually physically visit a library at least once a year, or they cut you off. So you don't have to check anything out. You just have to go up to the desk and have them like scan your card, and so they know
Yeah.
you're still like a resident, I guess.
Yeah.
And I
Have you-
haven't, so it cut me off.
Oh,
So I did forget I was listening to a new book. It's by H.P. Lovecraft. It's a collection of his stuff. I tried reading his a while back, and the language in it, because it was written in the early 20th Century.
Century, yeah.
The language in it had me like stumbling over it a little bit, so I decided I was going to listen to it, and it's a collection, and it's Necronomicon. And it's read by a whole bunch of different people, so I'm listening to that on Audible. And it's creepy.
But I will tell you, like, I've decided my Audible, like, listening, I can do 3 hours in a row, and then I'm done. Like, I gotta take a break. I gotta do something else. Like, 3 hours is my max audiobook listening time.
I usually only listen when I'm driving, or if I'm, like, carding wool. I'll do that. But that's usually it.
I do it when I'm processing books at work, because I'll download, like, kids' books then, so they're school appropriate. And then when I'm sitting and knitting, because now my commute's like 5 minutes.
Yeah, so it's not even long enough to get into the story.
Yep.
So what have you done this week? You had some outings, right?
I did. So Eloise Gale and I went to go see Melissa Leapman at Oxford. So I got to hang out with Melissa Leapman a little bit. I took a class from her many, many years ago at TNNA, and she's a wonderful teacher. One that I would highly recommend if she comes to your area. I'm kind of sad she offered classes Saturday and Sunday, but I just needed a weekend to work on this and not take classes. So I'm sad that I didn't take a class from her because she had a fit class, like how to fit sweaters to your body based on that newer book that we reviewed of hers. But I just couldn't get there. But she was really nice and interesting, and the Oxford shop is a cute little store. So that was fun. And what else? Oh, so I watched the Save Our Stitches Craftsy class by Laura Nelkin. And I actually watched it all in one sitting, which is very unusual for me with Craftsy classes. But Laura is super approachable as a teacher in real life, but on that Craftsy class specifically, she's very calm. She's like unraveling stitches, and she's like, oh, here we go. And I'm like, but it's a really good class. It's great for all skill levels. She really makes it easy to understand how stitches are oriented. So the way it goes through the lessons, lesson 1 is just an overview. Lesson 2 is how stitches are oriented, what lace looks like, the difference between single and double-sided lace, unknitting, mapping your lace, her mistake philosophy. And then lesson 3 is drop stitches, dropping them, laddering them back up, dropping them in lace, but then picking them up after the fact. And she uses sewing thread, which is really, really interesting to me. She goes into yarn overs and decreases, both mist, like basically how you can mist them and how you can add them back in. And then the really interesting part for me was the lace surgery, which was really, really, like, basically you're ripping back and rebuilding your lace. And then the last part is mistake prevention. Like, one of those hints was the little triangle stitch markers, but lifelines and a bunch of other stuff. So it's definitely a great class for all different skill levels. Laura's got a very approachable manner, but I also, sometimes with those Craftsy voices, it's all about tone of voice with the teachers. And she's got a great tone of voice, and throughout the whole thing, she's like, email me pictures, put up a picture if you want to meet, and I will get back to you, and I will let you know what I think. And it's just a really, really good class.
Yeah.
So that's one that I would highly recommend. And we are Craftsy affiliates, so if you click through our sidebar, we do get a little bit of money. Ongoing events, we have the Three Waters Farm Knit Along Spin Along is coming to an end. That will end this week. Or not this week.
First part of next
Monday.
week.
Yeah. So there's that. Leslie and I are still working. Well, Leslie did her part. I'm still working on getting Stash Dash stuff uploaded so we can pull for a winner. Upcoming events, we will have our Halloween Craft All the Things again. And that will start, let's say September. Do we want to start at the first day of September?
Let's do the first day of September.
Okay. It's easy to remember.
Really loose. Like, all you have to do is find a way to tie it to fall or Halloween.
Sell it.
So it can be like, I wove these towels because during the month of October, I clean my house. Like, you really don't have to be convincing. Like...
And you'll do one post per finished item that you do.
And we'll pull prizes and
I
stuff.
knit this fabric rug.
Yeah.
Because my feet get cold in my house during the fall. Like, stuff like that. If you're looking to sponsor a prize, if you would like to send us something to give away. Ooh, speaking of which, I have a prize to give away this week. We would love to take it. We will at least mention you twice, if not probably a million times more on the podcast. But we are always looking for prizes. So if you're interested, just email me or Leslie, Leslie or I. She's Leslie at TheKnitGirlls.com. I'm Laura at TheKnitGirls.com. Oh, what else do we have? I have a prize to give away. Upcoming events. I'll be at SAF October 31st. I'll just be there Saturday. So I will be there Saturday. And then we have SSK vendor signups this week.
Until Friday of this week.
Yep. And then hopefully next Sunday, all our teachers will have gotten their contracts back so we can talk about who's teaching at SSK next year. All right, so I have a very cool giveaway that I totally needed to pull and put in the show notes. There we go. So Juliana'sFiber.com. She's on Etsy. She's got these gorgeous yarns. So they're primarily gray. You know how I feel about gray. Or silver. And it's got these
pops.
Yeah. Of like, there's a bright orange in there and a bright pink. And she's a Canadian Etsy seller. There's that blue. There's green and yellow. It's really, really pretty. So as you knit it, that kind of stripes in. There's all this colorful part for one section and the rest is gray. It's really pretty. This one's called Silver Lining. It's an 80% superwash merino wool, 20% nylon, 420 yards. It's fingering weight. It's really, really pretty. I wish I could keep it, which is why it was sitting really over here. And I was like, ooh, I want to keep this. Usually all our prizes go. I have a little organizer right here, but it ended up almost in the stash. It's really, really pretty. So what I want you to do is go on over to her Etsy shop and tell us. She's got some really pretty like gradients that she's been doing too. And tell us what you would purchase from her. And we will have the contest. I'm kind of out of habit with contests. We haven't done one for a while.
Yeah, I know.
We'll have the contest thread up in the, I almost said SSK, up in the Knit Girls Ravelry group.
Same rules as usual, yeah.
Yep, you must be a member. This prize is not interchangeable with any other prize because really, why would you want to do that?
One post per person, no chatter in the thread.
Yep. So just tell us your favorite item from her shop and you'll be entered to win this, and we will pull for it next week, which will be, let's see,
I think.
the 30th of August. So I'll go ahead and get that linked. But yeah, it's a really nice prize, and she was so sweet to send it with her SSK prizes that she sent as well, which is why SSK is on my brain.
Well, and because it's always there on your brain. Every year I think, this year I'm going to take a month off after SSK and I'm not going to do anything SSK related. That never happens. Never.
We got stuff going on. We got stuff to do, yo.
Yeah, we got people to sign. We got vendors to invite. So.
So many good vendors are applying, and if you're interested in applying, you still have a week. But yeah, there's some good people. I'm excited. It's gonna make y'all are making our jobs hard because then we can only have so much space, so we have to pick, which makes it terribly hard. But yeah, I think that's about it for this week. Did you have anything else that we need to talk about?
Nope. I don't have anything else. I have laundry. It's exciting.
I'm doing laundry too. Mine's all the way over there. They like it when I wear clothes to work.
Yeah. They tend to do that the same here. Yeah. So you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you on the 30th.
Bye y'all.